Welcome to the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show, a broadcast service of globalbusinessnews.net.
Now, here's your host, Ed Cohen.
Welcome to Global TV Talk Show, a business service of globalbusinessnews.net. I'm in San Diego, and our special guest today, Mr. Paul Falcone, who's in the greater LA area, a renowned author of best-selling business books connected with human resource management, talent management from a business point of view, and also Julie Taylor, who's based in the LA area as well. Julie is headmaster of the bridgeschool.net, the professional online learning for K through 12. And in the background, we have Laura Kriska. So let's begin. Paul Falcone, I thank you so much for your time. You have been involved as a speaker, a SHRM-based expert resource, and caught my attention about 8 months ago, really, to double down and try to get you to do this thing because of your leadership connected with how companies should react to engagement, employee engagement, working from home, all the disruption, all the problems. And you came up with this idea of scripts, providing scripts of how managers should talk. Let's welcome Paul Falcone, and please do a little bit of a deep dive on scripting.
Thanks, Ed. Sure. No, I'm happy to. The funny thing for me is I've been in human resources most of my career, and I've been fortunate. I was head of HR for Nickelodeon and head of international HR for Paramount Pictures and different kinds of jobs, mostly in entertainment, but also healthcare, biotech, and financial services. So I've got a little bit of everything. And what I found was I wrote the books for myself. I need the books, Ed. I need the scripts. I forget. You know, the funny thing is this is not easy. And dealing with people, especially when they're in crisis or when it's confrontational, I used to write little scripts out for myself. And it was in there that I thought, well, okay, there's a book here. And that turned out to be one of my books on, it was called 101 Tough Conversations to Have with Employees. But it's the same type of thing. I like to write books on how to do things. I think people know the what. They just don't know how to execute on it. They don't know the how. So I don't tell people you have to use it exactly this way. Make it your own and fit it to your style. But at least they can hear it, so to speak, before they go through it. And they can understand what the person is going to respond to typically, because people tend to respond pretty similarly to similar types of situations. And they hear it in their head. And the best feedback I've ever gotten is when people have said, boy, you're like a fly on the wall. You knew exactly how that call was going to go or that meeting was going to go. And that's because in HR, I've been doing it for 30 years. People tend to respond a certain way, so you kind of can predict it.
So when they respond in a certain way, it's, we can't generalize, but is it really based on what you see as personality types of the people who are responding or the situational type?
The answer to that would be both. I think what I learned was in the third grade. It's not what you say, but it's how you say it. And when you put things in a way that are constructive, that are caring, I mean, even when they talk about, oh, you have to fire someone, right? Would you ever say you're fired? I would never use those words. Those words have never come out of my mouth. But you say, listen, I'm sorry. I'm sorry it's come to this. I appreciate everything you've done. I know you've tried, but I hope you can respect our decision to move in a new direction. When you say something like that to someone in the worst of all cases, they can still kind of keep their own self-respect and, not feel like they were, taken advantage of when they were so vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And now a word from our co-sponsors. Our programs wouldn't happen without the wonderful support of our advertisers. Here they are.
One of the greatest things about attending the Bridge School is that students are able to truly move at their own pace. Students who are advanced learners can move more quickly through the curriculum. Students who are struggling can slow down and take a little bit more time and get additional resources from their teachers. Also, the typical school in a school district is following state set guidelines and standards, and they're following the pace of the entire class. And that isn't always conducive to students. The Bridge School partners with StrongMind to provide this award-winning curriculum. And with that, students are able to trust and know that they're learning a curriculum that is built on standards that are national standards, that are research-based, and they're chronological based on how students learn. So students can actually go forward and learn that at their own pace and not have to worry if they are meeting the standards that are set forth by the state. They can know that they're learning what needs to be mastered in that course to be successful.
This episode of Global TV Talk Show is brought to you by
The Bridge School, the accredited international online private school of choice, at bridgek12.org.
Porch Light Rental and Destination Services. Reduce renter lump sum or managed relocation costs. Find them at porchlightrental.com.
CubeMonk, featuring the world's first smart cube. Welcome to the future of moving and relocation at cubemonk.com.
Primestone Partners, featuring corporate, government, and developer housing solutions. Find them at primestonepartners.com.
And by Airs. With our full range of services, we can help design and manage your international relocation. Find us at airs.com. And by International Auto Source. We are the vehicle experts for expats, featuring all major brands of automobiles. On the web at intlauto.com.
Hi Rob and Eva. I just want to say thank you guys to support me to purchase my new vehicle here in USA. And we are enjoying a lot this new vehicle, Mateo as well. Say hello Mateo to Rob and Eva. And thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye bye.
As an expat moving to the USA, relocating is exciting, but it can also be stressful. Getting a car, truck, or SUV for personal transportation is usually a high priority. That's where International Auto Source comes in. We make getting the vehicle you want for your work assignment or academic program easy, so you're ready to drive when you arrive. Our product specialists have helped over 50,000 expatriates with their personal transportation needs, making us the largest international auto retailer in the world. International Auto Source gives you flexible payment options to buy, lease, or rent a vehicle from the world's leading auto brands, arrange financing on a purchase or lease without a U.S. credit history, social security number, or driving record, get full insurance coverage, and get approved easily through our low-rate factory-backed financing programs. And because we're an authorized distributor of the world's leading automotive brands, our no-haggle prices are competitive, and the buying experience is hassle-free. We'll even guarantee your new vehicle will be ready the day you arrive. With over 20 years of experience in the global community, we are the vehicle experts for expats. We are International Auto Source.
Okay, Julie Taylor, why don't you explain to Paul, real brief, and then we'll go into it deeper later in the program, about the bridgeschool.net.
Yeah. So the Bridge School is an online K through 12 virtual school. So we're fully online and we serve students across the globe. We are fully accredited, meaning that our students can go on to universities and colleges after they receive a U.S. diploma with us. And, you know, I have been managing a virtual workforce for the greater part of the last 2 decades. And there's so much truth to what you're saying. I remember the very first termination I had to do, and I was probably at the ripe age of 28. And I did exactly that. Like, I had a whole script laid out, and I know my voice was shaking, but I had that script, and, you know, emotions aside, you're able to go back to the facts. And as long as you have it laid out, you can, you know, have an outcome that you're expecting. And it's never easy, but that script definitely helped.
So, Paul, the scripting idea was especially useful. How do managers deal with their employees? They're all remote, forced into that by COVID. and shutdowns. And yet the words you used, that managers can rise and shine, heroes are born in this kind of a crisis, and engagement, this is time for the double down and make sure you show empathy and etc. You can do this a lot better than me, so I will be quiet.
No, but your point is well taken, Ed. I mean, there's that expression that says never let a good crisis go to waste. And I don't mean to make light. This is a terrible thing we're going through in a terrible time. Many people have been laid off. We all know people have been impacted negatively. But for managers who are managing remote employees, and the good news is we figured out we could do this as a society. Hey, it works. That part of it is cool. But now you have to be a leader on steroids in the sense where all the things that made sense before, the communication, the team building, being able to make people feel like they can make themselves vulnerable to you in a healthy sense, where the trust can really kick in. It's a little harder to do when it's not eyeball to eyeball. And as much as we love Zoom and WebEx and the other products that are out there to do this via video, it isn't the same as being in the same room. So you really have to focus on it as a leader and build this skill. It's a great muscle to focus in on right now.
So Julie, you have this experience when you train teachers on how to be human across the video screen.
Right. I think that, when you're face to face, there's a lot of informal interaction that happens that you don't have to plan for. You don't have to schedule it. It's just happening as you're crossing somebody's office or you're just walking by them and you're asking them, how was your weekend? How was your day? In the virtual world, it has to be intentional. You have to schedule that. You have to be intentional about asking, how are you doing, Ed? How was your weekend? And really make an effort to build those relationships that don't happen as naturally as they do in a face-to-face setting.
Yeah, so Paul, in working with people who are working from home, you're looking into their lives much more than in normal when they're down the hall or on floor 32 and you're on 55 or whatever. Or out on the back lot, I guess, where you have been. But how do you deal with it? I mean, you just be a human being, right? I mean, you're not playing power games over the video screen.
Well, the funny thing, Ed, Julie, you hit the nail on the head. The key word is intentional. It's more of a directed, focused type of thing. So one of the things I talk about is you have to build more structure into the relationships. So for our example, in our company, we've got about 100 employees that are working remotely. We did a survey recently, we're staying in touch with them, but the hardest time they're having is disconnecting at the end of the day. 5 p.m. doesn't mean 5 p.m. anymore. They'll keep doing their work till 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock at night because there's no more barrier. And how do you keep those conversations up and dialogues up to help them know? It's like, let me help you kind of build that defining line so that at the end of your day, you need to go for a walk. Then once you've done that, you need to eat dinner. Then once you need that, I want to see a TV show on your calendar, and you help them through that. The funny thing is, it sounds like we're pulling our employees away from working. That's not really the idea. They'll appreciate you as a leader much more if you're concerned about their well-being and their work-life balance. So no, we're not trying to take advantage of this and make people work till whenever until they drop, but it is difficult right now, and we find that to be one of our biggest challenges for remote workers.
So how do you manage productivity? Based upon what you were just talking about, how do you, if we could do a deep dive here, productivity, performance, and then communicating, hey, I've got issues, I had a family discussion, things aren't going too well, not to alarm you, but we need some time here.
Yeah, no, great point. Julie, remember when you talked about this idea that you walk down the hallway and you stop in and you say hi to people?
Yeah.
Okay, without that, and when I say there needs to be more structure, one of the things I would say is you need to be having weekly team meetings. They can be shorter, they can be huddles, but you need to make sure you're having a group connect. Okay, then you have to find out your time to have the individual one-on-one connect. Ed, to answer your question, I've come up with this idea of using an achievement calendar. Now, I call it a quarterly achievement calendar. It could be a weekly achievement calendar, but everybody on the team has access to either a spreadsheet or a SharePoint where they can lock in their achievements, where they're at, their roadblocks. It helps us all see what everyone else is doing. and everyone has equal access to the tool. So we can all communicate that way and stay aligned.
Mhm.
Great. Okay, Paul, if you could cue up the Julie video.
Something that's really neat is that the Bridge School partners with various organizations to provide learning for their students. For example, we partner with a major ballet company, and we are able to enroll several of their students into our school. So now not only is the student able to participate in a school and have a seamless transition while they're very active in their ballet career, but now they have other dancers that are with them that are doing some of the same courses. So it's almost becoming a camaraderie where they're taking similar courses, they're working together on their ballet, and really being able to form this great partnership with these organizations to provide a needed service. A lot of times there are student athletes who will spend hours and hours at the gym or at the basketball courts, wherever it is. And if they're attending a traditional school, they're in school from 8 to 3. They get a quick snack, and then they're at the gym for 3 to 4 hours in the evening. Coming to us and having that partnership, they're able to break that up throughout the day. They can have a morning practice, get some schooling in, have an afternoon practice, finish their schooling in the evening. So there's that flexibility. And additionally, if there are tournaments or performances, it's fantastic because if there's a week where they have shows straight through, they can take that week off of learning and then pick back up when they're done. So it offers this great flexibility. And for the program owners of these sports leagues, it is a win-win situation for them because they see this need. They see this need that their students need to make sure that they are obtaining the grades necessary to be successful adults in our country and in other countries. But it provides them an environment where they can be successful at both.
Okay, so Paul, I wanted to just show you that because it's a beautiful portrayal, but also just so you get some depth about what Julie and her partners have been doing for 20 years.
There we go.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Julie, so you know, that would work totally well in the studio system.
Yeah,
Because when you have young, right, you've got the young kids and they've got to get X amount of hours in while they're on set. And so they have teachers that are dedicated to them who come physically to the set, but there's so many limitations to that. So that whole model would work so well in entertainment.
Oh, cool.
it does. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, feel free to use the chat to send an email or provide a link. We believe in networking. So Paul, I just wanted to share that with you. There's a lot more that Julie can tell you about if you're interested. Paul, about your book, you have so many books, but about your book that is about having tough conversations. You could write a book about the tough conversations themselves, never mind how to do it. But how do you deal with that mentally? I mean, how do you, as a manager, how do you separate yourself while still being human in communicating the empathy and getting something done that you need to have done for the company?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And why I say it's a real challenge is trying to do these things remotely, looking at a Zoom of someone and telling them about, these problems. So there's little techniques to this too, right? I think to my point earlier, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And that determines how receptive people are going to be. But one of the things you'll find is, the classic example, I've got an employee's got a bad attitude and he's just always this or always that. And how do you deal with that? And the answer is use the word perception. Perception isn't right or wrong. It just is, right? Perception management. They used to call them PR firms. Now they call them perception management firms. It's the same thing. Perception is reality until proven otherwise. So you can talk to someone very respectfully and just say, listen, from a perception standpoint, I think what you're doing isn't resonating with your peers. And I can tell you from my own vantage point, this is what it feels like to me sometimes when I'm talking with you. And you can set someone up to listen very, very objectively to what you have to say by putting it in that perspective of, perception from my vantage point, this is how it sometimes feels. That's very different than saying, you know what, you always do this, you never do that, and all of a sudden becomes judgmental. Keep it objective. There doesn't have to be any judgment in it. And if you structure it the right way and tell people, they're responsible for their own perception management, they really are. It's not so much their intention, it's how it's coming across to the receiver. You'll find that you can open them up, and you can do that on a call that's remote and digital, even if it's not face-to-face in the office, because it's something that people need to sleep on no matter what. They really need to kind of self-evaluate how they may be coming across, and you want to raise their awareness about it.
Mm-hmm. You're so right. Paul, one of the things that you always go in with good intentions, right? You want to believe the best in people. And so whenever you're having those conversations, I believe that most of the time people don't even realize that they're coming across as bossy or, hard to work with. Like they don't even have that understanding. So I have found that if you can even just make them aware of it, that can be a huge pivotal turn in their own how they relate to other employees.
Julie, you're spot on. It's the person who I sit back and I say, this person totally lacks awareness about how he or she comes across. Then they come into my office to complain that someone was rude to them. I'm like, wait, how do you not see how you're treating other people? But you're right. I think a lot of times the stuff does just miss awareness, and it needs to be brought to them in a respectful manner. But it also has to be, serious. I mean, when I hold these conversations with people, I tell them I'm here to coach them, but I also tell them I really don't want to have this conversation again. I need you to assume responsibility for fixing this so we don't have to keep going down this road. And usually, not always, but usually it does turn things around.
So let me ask you, Paul, about the entertainment business. It's actually a manufacturing enterprise, right?
The industry you're talking about, Ed, overall?
Yeah, well, you're making TV, you're making movies.
Correct, yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is talented people, and probably extremely emotional at times, in many aspects.
No. Entertainment people, really?
So how do you deal with that kind of thing, and maintain your own sanity?
Yeah, it's a good question. I was head of HR for NBC Universal for a while when it was the TV production unit, and it was all the shows from Saturday Night Live to The Office to Tonight Show, all those other kinds of, or at Nickelodeon with animators and people in some pretty powerful jobs on big shows. And a lot of times they look at you like, you're HR, really? I have to talk to you? And nothing personal. I don't take it personal. I understand that a lot of times they don't feel like they should be called before HR because they're who they are. And I do think there's a little bit of going along with the sense of, listen, I understand where you're at, but I need to talk to you because this is in your own best interest. And that you can kind of perk up the conversation with, like, what are you talking about? It's in my best interest. And then you can kind of educate them a little bit. They need to be educated. The one problem that a lot of leaders suffer from, what they're lacking, is they think they can't be touched. And what they don't realize that is in the entertainment industry, especially because these are high profile studios, they're high profile productions. These people are high net worth individuals. They've got big red circles on their backs as far as being targets. And they need to know how to defend themselves and defend the organization. And so I can have a simple conversation with someone, talking to them about, how do you do this and what's real for you and what's going to work for you? And all of a sudden I've made myself an ally. And I'm not someone like the HR, the principal's office, excuse me, Julie, I like the term headmaster better than principal, but you know what I mean? I'm not coming across as someone telling them what they have to do. I'm helping them hopefully see that it's in their own best interest to want to come to me for help when they're in that kind of situation.
Julie. Yeah. Okay. So Julie, I welcome your input on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, back to one of the things that Paul had mentioned earlier about the balance between working from home now, the remote workforce. And it was almost a little bit of a deja vu because we were just talking to Ed about this yesterday. But that's one of the hardest things for people when they're moving to this online workforce, is balancing their home life and their work life. And it feels like they can never shut off work because it's always there, right? It's always there. And so that's one of the first things that we talk to new employees about, new teachers about, is setting those boundaries and creating a schedule. Finding a tool that helps you manage your time. We used the software a few years ago, not as a punitive measure, but more of self-reflection to allow employees to see how they're using their time on their computer. And it will log times like you spent, 2 hours doing email, you spent 3 hours on Zoom, whatever it might be. It breaks it down for the week. And it is really helpful to see, being in education, especially in online education, teachers can find, they want to make things just perfect. So what we were finding is that teachers were really spending a huge amount of time making their PowerPoint presentations pretty. And then they were saying that they were very behind and they were having a hard time catching up with their work. But when you look at how you're spending your time, and that's not just on the computer, but your day as a whole. If you kind of jot down, okay, this morning I spent so much time doing this, and then I went and I did laundry for a little bit, and then I came back, and you find that you're taking these different breaks to do household chores, but it gets built into your day, and that time becomes very muddy, and it's very hard to distinguish what is actual work time and what is home time. So if you can, especially at the beginning, when you're first starting to work from home, create that schedule where you can have very defined lines. It will help separate that for you so you're not feeling so overwhelmed.
Fascinating. So Paul, let's jump over to talk about SHRM and your involvement, and what, not about SHRM, but you have a particular good insight. How is SHRM relating to the legions of HR managers in these days? This big convention that I've been going to for 20 years, and how are they handling that? And what role are you playing in that regard?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. The Society for Human Resource Management is SHRM, and they're based in Alexandria, Virginia, and they are the 800-pound gorilla, and they're global. And I think they're doing a great job, Ed. I mean, I write for them. So I write for them as I contribute once or twice a month and to their online magazine. And the reality is they said to me, Paul, listen, if it ain't COVID, we're not interested. So this is where everything is going these days, and really nuanced in terms of how to address what's going on in the workplace right now under COVID-19, because it's changed everything. I look at what I was working on in January and February, it's still sitting in a file cabinet. I haven't touched anything because once we hit March, it was all COVID the whole time. New laws, new rules, new regs. How are we going to do remote workers? Because we didn't have that in our company. How are we going to stand up a child care center? Because we needed to do that because we have nurses. We're the Motion Picture and Television Fund, we're on the CHRO now, is a healthcare nonprofit. Basically, it's a retirement facility and a skilled nursing facility for retirees from the entertainment industry. And so, we have nurses and we have, what do we do in LA? So, what was interesting, I don't remember when, this is around March, Friday afternoon, we found out that LA Unified School District would not be open for business on Monday. That gave us Saturday and Sunday to stand up a child care center and tell all the employees you can bring your kids here on Monday. I mean, that's how wild and crazy it's been. But SHRM is doing a great job addressing those very kinds of contingencies, exigencies, whatever you want to call it, because it's been wild in the HR space. People are afraid, people are nervous, people are anxious. What are we saying to them? How are we applying these rules? How are we staying compliant within the new laws that are rolling out? As the laws are changing once they roll out, it's like they don't just roll out and stay the same. They keep changing every few weeks, it feels like. So SHRM is doing a wonderful job keeping everybody together and on the same page.
Very well, thank you for doing that deep dive there. Now, of course, it's starting to happen of workforce trickling back in, and what they're coming into is a lot of plexiglass, right?
Plexiglass it is, yeah.
Right. So I know Julie doesn't have to deal with this, but still, you're dealing with the same kind of situation, though, aren't you?
Yeah, the funny thing is, oh, Julie, I'm sorry, that question was for you. Forgive me.
No, that's okay. I was just going to say that yes, we have definitely seen an increase, and there's been a couple of key areas here with COVID pandemic. We have families who have existing health issues, and maybe their school has gone back to in person, and they're not ready for that. So we have a lot of families who have come to us because they're not ready to go back into person, and then we have families who, like Paul was saying, the target changes, daily sometimes, what's happening, and school districts might say one thing on Friday and it's a different thing on Monday, and it's a moving target constantly. And so we have a group of students that are with us because they don't want to keep going back and forth. They just want consistency throughout the school year. And so we're seeing a big influx specifically related to COVID into those two cases.
Paul?
Yeah, what I was going to say, and it's interesting, bringing them back to work is a little bit of a trick too. You have to make sure it's very open, it's very transparent, it's very, fluid. You want to listen to their concerns. Some people are still freaked out about coming back because we're a healthcare facility. So they're worried about coming back because of the virus. And we've been very gentle and understanding in making this work. And, we haven't hit any hard roadblocks, but if we do, we'll address them when the time comes. But you're right, Ed. I mean, plexiglass is just the beginning. They're coming back to campus and it looks different. And, the pool is closed. You can't go in the gym area. This is closed. That's offset. It just looks different and everyone's masked. If they hadn't really been on campus since that March timeframe, they've been out now, 8-9 months. It's been a long time for them to be gone from work. So you have to prepare them a little bit so they're not totally shocked. It's like going back to an old neighborhood. It's like it looks a little different than you left it.
Boy, this is an interesting conversation. So I thank you for being our guest today, Paul. It's wonderful to meet you in person, because this is the new in person. And I want you to please feel free to further communicate with Julie and vice versa. And Laura Kriska is in the background. She'll be our guest on a future show. She's launching a new book about the business of we. And I really look forward to that. And thank you, Paul, for the introduction to Laura.
Sure.
All right. So I thank you, Julie. And thank you again, Paul. And we'll sign off now. I'm in San Diego. Julie's in east of LA, and Paul's in north of LA. California bound. Here we are. Okay. Bye-bye now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us in the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show.
Have a wonderful day, and stay safe.